Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is a part 2 with Isaac the Shadow Walker. If you're not familiar with who Isaac is, he is the co-host over at Hidden in the Shadows podcast, and he was on this show for episode 50. So after we were done recording for episode 50, Isaac informed me that he had, a lot more to talk about. And then after this episode was done, he informed me that he still had more to talk about. So there will be a part 3 in the near future, probably in a couple months. So stay tuned for that. But I hope you really enjoy Isaac's stories today. He's a wicked good dude. I like him a lot, and I think you guys will too if you haven't heard him yet. So go check out his podcast. He does it with his wife. If you have dark entities and or demons of any kind, please reach out to him, and he can remotely remove them. He's very good at it, from what I hear. I know people that he has helped. So yeah, if you need help, please reach out to him, and he will do so for free. So with that, I appreciate everybody who tunes in to this every week. It means a lot to me. I was recently featured on a magazine, which is Paranormality magazine. You can get copies. You can get electronic copies or a physical copy off their website, paranormalitymag.com. Wonderful people over there. I've been talking to someone over there, and they also have a podcast. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out too. But with that being said, please go on Facebook and look up Fortean Fest. It is a paranormal cryptid kind of event that is happening in my neck of the woods in my hometown. June 8th. It is 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So please go show them some love if you're interested in vending and or speaking. You can message them directly at Paranormal5, either on Facebook or Instagram. So they are very welcoming and they're very nice people. So if you're interested, definitely reach out. So other than that, like, follow, share, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. My kids and I just started another podcast called Straight from Our Couch, where we do movie reviews on movies that I grew up with, not strictly movies I grew up with, but mostly. And I introduce them to my kids, and then we, record ourselves talking about it, and we give the movie a rating and what we think about the movie. So, it was a lot of fun. The first episode's already out on YouTube and Spotify. Not sure if Apple has picked it up yet, but it's out there. So, for some reason, I'm having a hard time finding it on YouTube. I do not know why. But With that being said, let's get into it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird.
All right, so episode 50, I got a lot of fantastic feedback on. Not only was it a milestone, but I had a phenomenal guest. I was gonna say fantastic, and I said phenomenal. Weird. But so I had Isaac from Hidden in the Shadows podcast, and he talked about his ability to basically capture, um, I guess, dark entities and store them into his ring. And that episode is called "A Prison for Dark Entities." And well, towards the end, we find out that Isaac actually has quite a bit of stories from his childhood. So I figured we'd do a part two, and this is part two. So, Isaac, if you don't mind telling the good people a little bit about yourself, your podcast, and where they can find you.
Well, co-host of Hidden Shadows podcast with my wife Megan. The whole podcast started out because me and my wife's experiences between the two of us were enough to fill a novel, or enough more than one novel actually. And we decided to start telling these stories through the podcast, which originally was a different one, and then we found out that a lot of people liked our paranormal stuff versus us just talking about random stuff. So we decided to start Hidden in the Shadows podcast, and we've been doing that for almost 3 years now. 4 years in June of next year, and we've become paranormal investigators because of it. We do that on the side. Speaking of which, as a paranormal investigators, we've actually had to create a new team. The old team, Shadowwalker Paranormal, is no longer, no more. Other team members didn't want to participate in our style of investigating anymore, so they disbanded, and I guess they're doing their own stuff now. But that gave us the opportunity, now just me and my wife, to create Hidden in the Shadows Paranormal. So we already had established a name with Hidden in the Shadows podcast, so let's tack on paranormal. And so now it's Hidden in the Shadows Paranormal, which is me and my wife.
That's awesome, man. I was so I got a follow on Instagram from Hidden in the Shadows Paranormal. I was like, what? Wasn't I already following that? Because I didn't pick up on the paranormal part and not the podcast. And I was like, I'm already following them. And I was looking at it. I was like, oh, I was like, there's two. It's a different thing now. It's their paranormal stuff. So if anybody's interested, you should definitely go check not only the Instagram out, but the podcast, because I'm actually listening. Did you do the music for your intro yourself?
When you ever listen back to the old episodes, like I guess around the first season, I think the first, I think it's either 40 or 50 episodes is it's something I wrote. It's that piano intro, a piano and violin thing. That was me. I wrote that. But then the band, a band called Malden, an alternative rock band that actually got started in the late 90s and retired because they have kids, and then came back in about late 2000s and started touring again after the kids got grown and stuff like that. Heard our podcast through the weirdest way. They found our podcast because they followed someone who had a Bigfoot sticker on the back of their car. So asking them about the Bigfoot sticker started a conversation about us as Hit Show's podcast. And then they were like, well, let's check this podcast out. They liked us, let's do our episodes. They even suggested and said, hey, if you guys want to use our music for an intro, you guys can. So I picked the song that is now the intro of our podcast, uh, which we use from now on. And we've been using it for a while and stuff like that. And they've been super cool. But I actually had them on one of the episodes. We talked about their paranormal experiences that each, I think it's the husband, wife, members of the team, members of the band, talk about their paranormal experiences and stuff they've experienced, stuff like that, which they've experienced some stuff on their own for being a band. It doesn't really evolve much spooky essence to their music, but they do have a spooky vibe every now and then. But yeah, I didn't write the new stuff, but no, the original stuff, yeah, I did.
Oh, nice. Because I was gonna say that's fantastic. I thought maybe you were the one on the guitar and everything, but
No.
yeah, I don't think maybe I did listen back far enough to the piano one, but yeah, no, I thought it was pretty great. And it goes with your podcast pretty well. So that's cool. But so you have a plethora of experiences from childhood that you had told me about. Well, you didn't tell me about them, but you just said we didn't even touch on the things that that I experienced growing up. And I was like, oh shit. But I don't know how you want to do it, like chronological. I can never say that word for the first or second time. So I'm just gonna, you know what I mean. So, um, I don't know however you want to do it. The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, it's like you're asking me to tell a little bit about myself, but that little bit took almost 2 hours last time. So I always point
Yeah.
to the original first time I was with you to get the full gist of everything I can do. Because I also have some new stuff that I can do, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Mm.
But no, the ranch I grew up on when I was a kid. Now, this is a story I've told countless people and stuff like that. I know I mentioned a little bit in the first episode, but never got the fully experiences of what's happened there. The ranch is, I think, I'm not good at determining acres, but I want to say no more than 50, but no less than 20. The best way I can, if I measure it, it's about the width of 2 football fields and the length of 3. So figure that out in size, and that's about the size of the ranch my grandfather bought back in the 80s, after he came to America from Mexico, moved over here, and then bought that piece of land, and that's what the family ranch has been there forever. Well, since that time, before I was even born, and uh, we didn't know anything about that piece of land. I didn't know the history of it or anything like that. But ever since I was a kid, up until the time I moved off the ranch, I've experienced everything paranormal underneath the sun there. From hearing spirits in the woods, from a possible cryptid, from alien lights in the skies, from seeing something big enough to block out the shadow, from seeing a white creature standing in the yard in the tall grass and stuff like that. And even that, not my own experiences, my friends who came to the ranch uh, and experienced some of the stuff on their own. So, but one of the first early experiences I remember as a kid, and I can't remember the reason behind it or the what caused it or what anything. All I remember is the room that I stayed in with my brothers, because I have 2 brothers, and we're all relatively around the same age. Granted, I was the oldest, and my youngest was maybe the youngest brother was about 4 years younger than me. So, granted, we were all relatively around the same age as growing up. But that room we shared, all 3 of us. But I remember when I was young, for some reason, the room would just had one big full-size, queen-size bed in there, and I was laying on it, and I remember crying and telling something to stop as the lights on the lamp kept getting brighter, and like it would go bright and not bright, bright and not bright, and that's like my earliest memory with anything paranormal, and I can't remember why or the reason behind it or what was even there. That's all I remember is from like feeling like I was crying and the lights was getting brighter and not brighter and brighter and not brighter. And it just, that's my earliest memory. But from time on the ranch when we were young, um, we and my brothers one evening decided to cross the fence to go towards this barn or school building that looked like it burned down or it has been burned down, and like half dilapidated and stuff like that. And my uncles always told us that's where a witch used to live. Like, don't ever go over there. That's where a witch was, right? She died in a fire. Don't go over there, right? They would always tell us that. I didn't know if it was true or not. I just know that's what they told us to keep us away from there. So me and my brothers, I think I was 8, and then my youngest was, of course, 4, and then my second youngest brother, he's a year younger than me. He's either 6 or 7. And we crossed the fence and we were walking. Mind you, this is dusk, so we can still see everything, and it's not nighttime yet. But we got maybe, I don't know, maybe 30 yards away from the barn building thing, and we hear loud, like this giant witch cackle, right? Loud witch cackle coming from behind the barn area, right? And of course, we're kids. We haul ass, run, like literally jump over the fence, and then just like haul back at the house, like telling our mom we heard that. She goes, you're hearing things, right? Which we couldn't explain to ourselves what we heard. All 3 of us heard it at the same time. We all ran. We couldn't figure out if it was someone playing a joke on us or not. But the weird thing is, no one owned that piece of land up behind the fence. There were no houses in that area. There was no one even living in that entire space. So we understand where it came from. And granted, at the time, my uncles were already moved on, living with their own families in different parts of the state and stuff like that. So it wasn't them. But fast forward till about, I think I was 13 or 14. I remember one night, the moonlight was shining through because the way the house was pointed, we had a big old like double window at the front of the trailer I lived in when I was a kid, and it would basically be open, right? So if a full moon, the light would shine through the window and basically like be on the floor. So of course we had blinds. We closed them sometimes. We wanted it to be real dark, but for some reason we didn't have blinds at that time, and the light was just shining through. And I hear something big moving around outside, like boom, boom, like hoof stomps, right? And I'm thinking, is there a damn cow or horse loose out there or something? I don't know anybody around that has any, but I mean, it was Texas, and there's a good chance that somebody has something like that around there. But whatever it was, when it walked past the window, right, it blocked out the moonlight for about 1-2 seconds as it passed by, and then walked away again. Now, for something to stand tall enough to do that, it would have to be well over 8 feet, right?
Damn. So you couldn't make out what you just saw, like it just blocked out the moonlight. That's it?
Yeah, it's like a massive black shadow. And
Okay.
like over 8 feet and probably at least about 4 feet wide to do so. Yeah.
Well, interesting. Well, I know what that sounds like.
Yeah. A little bit later from then on, it was one summer night, we heard something running around the house super fast. Me and my brothers, because of course we were up late during the summer because no school and stuff like that. And we heard something running around the house, like super fast, faster than any deer we ever heard before. It sounded like a deer because of the hooves and the tiny legs, which you have, endless amount of deer out where we lived in Texas. And it ran around the trailer like super fast, in less than a couple seconds each time. And we couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. We couldn't wake up our parents. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning. They were fast asleep. So we just tried to look out the window. When it passed by, I didn't see anything. I was like, what the hell's going on out there? Didn't figure out that mystery. That same summer, I think maybe a month later, we were bored, and we had an old 90s camcorder, the one you put on your shoulder, for anyone who's that old enough to remember.
I am. I used to have one of those.
Yeah. And my youngest brother, I think I was 14, and then my youngest brother, of course, was like 10. And me and my second youngest brother, we went outside at night because we were bored, like I said, and we decided, hey, let's. Oh, sorry. Before I tell that story, I had to tell the previous one. Sorry. No. Yeah, I'm on the right timeline. Sorry, I thought of something else. Anyway, so Oh, sorry, I got confused about another story I'm about to tell before that one. Anyway,
It happens to me
so
all the time too.
yeah, I'm like, wait, this no. So we got outside because we were bored one evening, and we had the youngest brother handle the camcorder as me and my second youngest picked up an axe, and he picked up an axe. I think I picked up a machete just in case we ran into anything. And we were trying to do our own Blair Witch stuff, right? Yeah, it just I guess a couple of years after the movie came out, we were like, oh, let's try our own stuff. Um, and the way that our driveway works is like there's one long dirt road with the ranch, the rest of the land on the right, and then a barbed wire fence on the left. And if you walk down the fence, you go down the road, it connects to a road that turns about slight turn right, goes straight for about 50 yards and a direct left, like right angle, and then straight all the way down to the highway where you go off and then get on the highway. So like we kind of lived out in the middle of nowhere. This ranch was. Well, we decided to walk down this road and go try to film that barn that we heard the witch cackle at. All right, see if we can see anything there. And my youngest brother was following me with the camera because he had the light on the camera. And granted, I would say that people in the Blair Witch Project had better camera work than he did. Granted, he was 10 and the camera was probably heavy, so I mean, it was just like it was everywhere. My second youngest brother got a little bit further down, and there's woods, and then after the woods, there's an open clearing area where the barn is, right? And he got a little further past me, and he was standing in front of the area where we saw, or so we heard, the witch cackle thing. And he was frozen. He was just standing there frozen. I yell out to him, Gabe, what's going on? My brother Gabe. And he just points, doesn't say anything, just looks and points. And I get around and see what he's looking at. And what I see is this white figure, not like a ghost, like a human being, this pale white, no clothes, right? Standing in the tall grass, like we're crouched kind of, and then stands up, turns around, and walks into the darkness. Right?
Did it look like any light was portraying from it, like radiating from it?
No, but there was a full moon, so it kind of gave some light so we could see it.
Oh, okay. All right.
But it looked like human skin, right? It didn't look like a ghost. It looked like a solid figure, but no hair on its head, bald. Like you see like a distinctive skin almost. My best memory is that it looked old and wrinkly, like someone who's been in the water too long. Right?
Yes. I get what you're saying.
But granted, it was nighttime, and I was, like I said, like 13, 14, so my memory's great if I can remember anything that far back. But it just stood up and then turned around and walked in the darkness, and we all freaking out. Youngest brother, he didn't say anything because he was the furthest back, and he was like, "What's going on? What's going on?" With it, he's handling the camera. You just see the camera, me and him run past him. And he's chasing after us. And the camera, not great camera work. But I remember, I think like 2 years later or so, and I was hanging out with my friend at his house, and it was a Saturday. Because I remember this is when I used to go to church, and church was the next day, and where he lived was walking distance from the church that we went to. So he asked me, "Hey, do you want to spend the night over? So in the morning we just go to the church, and after that I'll take you home." I was like, "Yeah, that's cool. We can do that." But I said, "I need to get my stuff. So I need to get some change of clothes. I need to get like my stuff." And he was like, "Okay." And him and my friend Matt, who was also there at the same time, my friend Steven, my friend Matt, were there at the same time. He's like, "Oh, let's go. Let's all go." All right. So we get in the car. Mind you, it's dark time. And we drive up to my house. And we park right in front of my trailer, stuff like that. And me and Steven get out, and we're going up. And I noticed that the porch light is off, which is, I guess my mom never turned it on. So I was like, okay. And we get out, and as we're walking, I noticed Matt didn't get out. He stayed in the car. And I was like, "Hey, you sure you want to stay out here?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because I've told them stories and stuff like that. So they knew exactly everything I told them, right? And he was like, "Oh, no, fine, I'm cool." I was like, "All right." Matt was in the shotgun position. That's important. We go inside. I think I talked to my mom for maybe a couple minutes, asked her, "Hey, can I go stay at Steven's tonight?" and stuff like that. He's like, "Oh, she goes, that's fine." And so I go to my room. I think we talked to my brother for maybe 3 minutes. I'm already packing my stuff while he's talking to my friend Steven about guitars or something. And we leave. And I remember as I'm walking out, I'm like, "Oh, gotta turn that porch light on. I don't want to walk out in the darkness." So I flick it on, We go out, we come down the stairs, or down the little porch stairs, and then we get in the car. And when we get to the car, Matt is now in the back seat with a freaked out expression on his face, yelling at us to get in the car. We need to leave now. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, get in the car, get in the fucking car now. I don't want to stay. Get in the. I'm like, all right. So I remember I threw my stuff in the trunk, got in of course the shotgun position now, and we were driving away. And as we were driving, mind you, I lived about 15 minutes out of town, so it was a good way drive back into town with no street lamps, no, just all darkness and highway back into town. And while we're driving back, he's telling us while we were in the house, no more than like 10 seconds of in the house, he heard a hoof stomp next to the car. Then off in the distance, then next to the car, then off in the distance, then next to the car. And he was looking around, seeing where the hell this is coming from. He couldn't see anything. And he jumped in the back seat to see if he could get I'm looking at all directions now. Next to the car, off in the distance. Couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And he was starting to freak out. And he just got down in the fetal position. And I don't want to see anything if there is anything, right? I don't want to see anything. He gets down. And then as he's doing that, he hears tink. Like something with a long claw scratching the side of the car. And he said he was about to jump up and slam the horn, right, as I flicked on the light, the porch light. And that's when we came out, and that's when he was freaking out. While he's telling this story, as we're driving back into town, if anyone who's ever lived out in the country before, they know that you probably killed more deer with your vehicle than any gun you could ever own. So,
absolutely.
Without fail, I think I've killed probably 6 or 7. So it's a common thing that you have to slow down if you see any sign of a deer on the side of the road. Otherwise, you're going to run right in your car. That wasn't the case that night. As you're driving back, and he's telling us this, every single deer we passed stopped on the side of the road and watched us drive by. No deer in history I've ever seen has ever done that. Stop and watch us leave. Right? And that's what Matt made the expression. Why are the deer fucking watching us leave? What is going on? That scared him even more than what he experienced. And as we got back to the house, Steven's house, back in the town, we go back outside with a flashlight and look at the side of the car to see if there's any markings. And yes, lo and behold, there was something that looked like someone took a needle, right, like a sewing needle, and stabbed and scratched one end of the car to the other.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That
so, right.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to hang out with 3 siblings in a bar?
3 siblings that like to tell true crime and paranormal stories and are also hilarious?
I'm Deshay, the oldest sibling.
I'm Sage, the middle sibling.
And I'm Storm, the youngest sibling.
So come hang out with us every Monday for a new episode of 3 Siblings Walk Into a Bar, available on wherever you listen to your podcast.
No. What was it? Just one scratch?
Yeah, just one long scratch mark from one end to the other.
Okay.
That's
wow.
strange.
That probably would have freaked me out too. And then the deer in Texas must be a different breed, because the deer up here, they just stop on the side of the road all the time. Not that they don't dart out in front of us, because they dart out in front of us all the time too. But I find it interesting how they. But how many do you recall? How many you passed up that night?
I think at least 10. So it was strange. I remember as he was telling us, why are the deer stopping? I look up.
Yeah.
I'm listening to him, and then I look back to the road, and I see 4 deer on one side and 3 on the other side of the road, just stopping and staring, watching us leave.
Wow. For all of them to just stop and stare is if one of them did it, it would have been for me, it would have been oh, it's just a deer. And then, but for a bunch, a good handful of them, that's strange and eerie, especially if I was him. So, obviously, that he was freaking out. So, to go through that experience and then to see the deer just standing on the side of the road watching you, and there's a good amount of them, and they're acting kind of unnormal or abnormal than they normally do. So like that just adds to the eeriness of the whole situation. So did he go back to your house ever?
Matt never did. No, never again. But Stephen did. One of the nights, because I played for the praise band, the church band. I played bass for the band. That's how I actually learned how to play bass, was in the church, which is always a funny thing I tell any metal band that I joined in my youth was, "Hey man, would you learn to play bass?" This is while I'm in a death metal band. "Oh, I learned in church." I go, "What?" Yeah, it's always a weird startings, but I was like, it's cool. Anyway, we left practice late one evening, and I asked him, "Hey, can you ride home?" He was over reluctant. He didn't want to do it at all, but I didn't have a choice, and he was like, "Fine, I'll do it. But if I see anything," right? Anyway, I think we were junior in high school. Yeah. So we go to the house nighttime. He drops me off. He says, "Get out of the car. I don't want to stay. I don't want to look at anything. I don't want to stay here that long." I was like, "All right." He leaves. Next morning at school, mind you, he tells me, "I'm never going back to your fucking house ever again." And he goes, "Why? What happened?" He says when he was driving out, and remember I said how there's that turn, and then you go straight, and then you make a left turn, and then you go straight all the way down dirt road, mind you, to the highway. While he's driving, he glances to the left, and then in this area of just open field, mind you, tall grass, no more than maybe 2-3 feet high, and it's just open grass, and then there's like woods kind of surrounding and stuff like that. In this open area to his left, he saw the white figure that I described when I was a kid, standing in the field, just standing there staring at him. Right? He hit his gas and said he ruined his shocks because, grind you, that was a very bad dirt road. It's like bumpy and stuff like that. Ruined his shocks, he says, as he was trying to get out of there as fast as he can.
Wow. Yeah, I'd probably ruin my shocks too if that happened to me. So if this person wasn't creepy looking to begin with, if it was just a random person, I still would have been creeped out. So there's that. But geez, man. So do you know anything about the land there? Like, is there any history of it on there?
My wife has tried to look stuff up, history of the ranch, the area of the land that we bought it from, and all I remember as a kid that the land that my grandfather bought it from, or leased it from, until he owned it, I think like 20 years ago, was a guy named Gary. That's all I remember. It's a guy named Gary. They're like, "Hey, it's a Gary's coming." That's all I remember. And he always had a truck, and I never saw his face. That's all of my from my childhood. I remember the guy named Gary owned the ranch before my grandfather bought it from him. That was it. No other connection. But what is strange is that there has to be something with that land. Either the hill country area of Blanco, Texas, that's where this ranch is, has a lot of limestone in the ground, and we're known for it. We know that you can't dig ever so far down deep before you hit rocks and stones. So if you wanted to do any kind of deep digging, you needed some good like a trench digger or those big heavy machinery to dig deeper down to get through the rocks as well. So I don't know if it's an overusage of limestone, because apparently limestone can hold a lot of energy, at least what we were told. But one thing I noticed is that when you drive down this road to my ranch, you drive, you make a turn, and you turn into it. There used to be a cattle guard there, which there is now because my grandfather has cattle. And you drive into a road, and basically the road splits into a Y, which one way goes up to my grandparents, the other one goes up to my house. And there's a tree, not on our side of the fence, on the other side, like directly against the fence. So they built it like right on the line, a tree that kind of hangs over. And on this tree, one of my last visits there, I noticed a big, giant, thick branch and this weird ringed, like almost like it's like a ring kind of over usage in this one part of the tree branch, and it had two like big round knots on either side, almost like a tire built into the tree, like someone with a rope kind of over pulleyed it, right, up and down, up and down, up and down, over and over again, right. And it just over the years it kind of fossilized a permanent mark in the tree. I recognized it because I remember watching a movie talking about a hanging tree and his history that had the same mark in it. It
The
means that
Galveston Square?
I think so. Can't remember what. It was like a documentary or something about a hanging tree somewhere. We were talking about we were going to talk about it for one of our episodes. This space, this haunted location where the documentary was taking place. Now I've totally forgotten because we kind of shelved it. But I remembered that ring in the tree and what it looked like. Overusage of hanging people from it. So it means that tree was used to hang people. Who knows when? Because that town Blanco was discovered in like the early 1800s. And where my ranch is, the land where it is a good 15 miles out of town. So if you wanted to take somebody and hang them with no one seeing or no one prosecuting you for, that would be the place.
Yeah, I'd say. So how far exactly did you say I might have missed it. How far that tree was from the property, or was it on your property?
It wasn't directly on the property, it was right against the fence. Like
Aha.
the branches were hanging over onto the ranch. If we wanted to cut that tree down, we'd have to ask the person who owned the land on the other side of the fence.
I got you.
But it hang over on our part of the fence anyway.
So the root system of that tree was on your property too. Yeah. So, because obviously everybody knows how trees work nowadays. Oh, at least I would hope.
Yeah, it's a possible culprit, but I'm not 100% saying that's the reason why. There's probably
I
other
think
things.
it could be a contributing factor.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't rule anything. Personally, I don't rule anything out. I like to have a little bit of like a healthy skepticism, but yeah, there's a little bit of everything sprinkled here and there, but it could very well be some contributing to the energy on that property. So.
And then there was the time. I mean, granted, the white figure could be decided as cryptid, but I don't think that. But they actually did have an experience with a possible cryptid on that ranch. This was, I say, fall time because it was getting cold at dark, but it was warm during the day, or like beginning of winter, possibly in Texas. It was an evening that was inside the ranch. We had the windows open because it was cool. I remember that. But we started hearing, and it had to be around 5 or 6, around the time the sun was started setting. We heard screaming off in the distance in the woods, and it sounded like an animal, just like a loud screeching sound. And my mom said, "Oh, it must have been a coyote or something that got in a fence, or barbed wire fence or something, or some kind of animal got trapped, right? Because it was off in the distance. We didn't care about it." But then it kept getting closer and closer and closer and louder and louder. And it got loud and louder. And in my kid mind, I thought it sounded like a pterodactyl. Granted, I'd never heard a pterodactyl before, but that's what it kind of sounded like to my head. My first thought in my head is a loud screeching sound. Like this loud screeching animalistic kind of sound. And it just kept getting closer and closer. And it wasn't a continuous sound. This, whatever it was taking breaths to get like quiet, and then like it's doing it over and over again. And it kept getting closer. It got so close and so loud, I could see the glass vibrating on the windows. To a point, where my mom was yelling at my dad, "Go deal with whatever that is. I don't want it getting on the house or getting near the house." Right? So my dad goes out to his truck, and like every Texan, he has plenty of guns. Yeah. But
I like that.
Excuse me real quick, my throat's getting a little dry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So he goes into his truck and he gets, I think his Magnum, his 357 Magnum. It's a black pistol, yeah. And I opened up the back door because I wanted to see whatever he was shooting at. I was the bravest of my brothers. And I just opened the door, and mind you, it's getting real dark, so you can't really see anything through the woods. And where this was coming from was the wooded area on the other side of our fence. Granted, no one lives over there. It's all land. And I'm looking to see what's there, and then out of nowhere, I hear my dad, fire his gun, bam, bam, bam. Like that scared me more than what was out there. And he fired all 6 rounds in the direction of where this sound was coming from. And you don't hear screaming after that. What you do hear is running. And when I heard it run, I was like, that's not normal. It sounded like it had very long feet. Like I heard like the heel hit, and then when maybe a second later, the foot, like the balls of the foot hit, and then heel, foot, heel, foot, heel, foot, as it ran away from the direction my dad shot.
Oh my god. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Go ahead, continue. I just have I think that that sounds like a Bigfoot to me.
On that. So we go out there to see if we see any footprints or anything like that, or fur or blood or anything that might be out there. Me and my brothers, during the day, we did this. Jumped the fence, looking around. All we saw on the trees were like bullet holes where my dad shot, and where I guess it skimmed part of the trees as well. But no fur, no footprints or anything. There was nothing there. Granted, you can see leaves moved and branches like broken, like where it ran through, but there's nothing left behind. After, and this is a plug for our recent episodes, we recently did Bigfoot Part 1 and 2 on our podcast, right? Just talking about Bigfoot. All the legend, all the stories, everything we've heard. After getting through the podcast, we mentioned that towards the end of Part 2 is like, hey, you think the thing that was on my ranch was a Bigfoot that might have been injured that was coming our direction? And she goes, I don't know, but from how you described it and what we've learned, it could have been. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the screeching and then the foot, the running. That's what it sounds like. I mean, the Bigfoot howl is always described a little bit different depending on the area that you're in, but essentially it's a scream. It's how even it like we don't if Bigfoot is real and the amount of times that they spend yelling, I'm sure that sometimes their vocal cords get a little stressed out, so it might change a howl sometimes, or the whoop or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, no, that's the minute like from the screeching to when you said how the way that it was running, it just all of that combined, and then the figure that you saw when you were younger go by your window, and it having to be 8 foot to be past the window to like block the light completely out of your window, like there's definitely, I feel like there's a definite Bigfoot in that was on that ranch. So I'd be interested to well, maybe hear about like Bigfoot hunters or whatever to like go out in that area. That'd be cool. Do you guys still own that property? Is it still in the family?
My grandfather and grandmother have passed away. It's been about 5 or 6 years now. But they left in their will. The property is about a third my father's, a third my uncle who lives on the ranch as well. Because I have my father has 2 brothers, like same as me, and his youngest brother, my uncle Mario, lives on the ranch, and he lives a little further up in the corner. If there's a corner of the ranch, that'll be it. He lives a little farther back, a little further away from everybody else, but he's still on the ranch as well. He got a third of the ranch, and then the final third originally was split into like all the pieces from all his kids. Now, my grandfather, I have 10 aunts and uncles, including my father. So he had 10 kids, my grandfather.
Wow.
But none of my aunts wanted to own the property. So what they did is they sold their shares to my father and my uncle, and they split up in thirds amongst them. So my uncle Javier owns the final third, which is the area of land where my grandparents' house lives, and where they built there's a trailer they built and they modified it, and then they have built this 2-story solid concrete building. It kind of has a very apartment kind of feel to it. It's just bedrooms, and then there's a bathroom on the upstairs and the downstairs. So whoever is living on the upstairs, I think there's 3 rooms up there. They have their own bathroom, mind you, it's not closed off, so you literally have to go not outside, but granted it's covered, but you are outside in whatever weather is there. So it's hot, it's hot. It's cold, and you have to walk down to the bathroom, take a shower, or use it, whatever. I bring that up because later on, in my, I think I moved out when I was 18. I lived with friends until about I was 20. Then I moved back, essentially with my parents. I moved into that pink building because all my aunts and uncles moved away, and that building wasn't getting use. So my grandfather said, "Hey, you can live there if you want, if you pay me rent." And I was like, "All right, that's fine, that's cool." So I lived up there in one of the rooms on the ranch back in when I was like 20. And I was working overnight at a grocery company called HEB. So my daytime was sleeping, my nighttime I was awake.
Yeah.
When my brother graduated, I think a year or so later, he moved into the other room that was across the hallway from me, and he had his own room up there. So we both were up there. We both worked at the same place. We go to work at the same time, so we just me and him always. I remember one of the times I was sleeping up there. Mind you, this pink building, stuff like that, it's like solid concrete and stuff like that. So we had our own furniture and stuff like that. I had a nightstand right next to me with a lamp and water bottles, of course, like anybody who is a excessive sweater. Next to the bed, and I remember one of the times I was waking up for work, so it was late at night. So about 10 o'clock I went in, so it had to be 9 o'clock, and I remember just like waking up naturally, not from my alarm, but I kept hearing someone telling me, "Wake up, wake up, wake up," right? I remember opening my eyes just a little bit, and what I see is a shadow figure of a little girl in a Victorian style dress. A lot of lace, a lot of frilly, but she was all solid black. Her dress was black, her hair was black, her skin was black, like shadow black, right? But you can see the distinctiveness on her dress and her hair and stuff like that, right? Complete shadow. And get up, and then a final, and then slam my nightstand, right? Of course, I jump awake because of
Whoa.
that. And when I do and I open my eyes, I see the water bottles on my nightstand like shaking as someone just slammed their fist on the nightstand. I get up. I
Damn,
get out of the
son.
room. I get out of the room. I go to my brother, who's already awake because he's off that day, and he's sitting there playing video games. He looks at me and goes, "What?" I go, I told him what I saw, and he goes, "Oh, you saw her too?" I'm like, "What the fuck you mean you saw her too?" and,
Oh my god.
and he goes, "Oh, I saw her the other night when I was sleeping. She was standing at the edge of the bed." And I was like, "You didn't think to tell me?" He was like, "I don't know." I was like, "That's important information." Anyway. But no. Yeah, that was one of the things that, mind you, there's a lot of stuff that happened up there, but that was like the most impactful thing I ever saw up there. But there's a time. I don't know if you want to digest that real quick before I go on to the next.
Well, no, it's similar to a shadow figure encounter that I've recently had in this very room.
Really?
So this room is now my studio, but it was my bed, and my bed was right here. It came out to pretty much to where I'm sitting right now, and the wall is literally right there. But you can see the door right here, and I always left it open. And so I've never really seen a shadow figure where I could tell like distinctive things about it. You know what I mean? So like you could tell that she was in a Victorian style dress and that it was a girl. And this shadow, I was laying in bed and I just hear Kevin, and I open my eyes and I'm just kind of like groggy, and this freaking thing is coming into my room. And the best way that I can describe that, the way that it was walking, was like C3PO, and it was just like, kind of like this, but it had long, wavy, curly hair. And I'd never seen a shadow figure with like where I could tell like exactly how the hair looked. And I was in this paralysis and I couldn't move, and it's like coming towards my bed, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's coming, it's gonna get me, and I was like and I could see my phone out of the corner of my eye, and I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like trying to I'm wiggling my fingers to try and grab my phone. I'm just like hyper focusing on my phone so I can grab it, because I wanted to grab it and light the room up so I could see who this person was, because I mean, at the very first instinct was that somebody was there, that somebody was physically in my room. but at the same time, like towards the back of my brain, I'm like, this is something that's fucking not real. I mean, well, not of this plane. And it like just got to the foot of my bed, like it was about to crawl onto my bed, and I broke out of the paralysis, grabbed my phone, lit it up, and there was nothing there. And I was like heavy breathing, like I had just ran a marathon, and I had a hard time catching my breath, and it scared the crap out of me. But the way you described that shadow figure and the fact that she got a little aggressive and slammed on the nightstand, you know, because I only ever see before this incident, it was if I look at it, it just stood there. If I went towards it, it would dissipate, or I would catch him out of the corner of my eye, just like darting from one room to the other. I've never actually had one come towards me before in my life. And I've experienced shadow figures since I was like 7 or 8. Like there's not a year that goes by that I don't at least see one of them one time. So I just thought that the parallels between your experience and my recent experience were pretty similar and worth noting.
That's I never had any of them bum rush me before, and now there's no chance of them ever getting that close. So.
Are you struggling with a lack of access to captivating entertainment and media? Are you faced with constant judgment and ridicule from friends and family for your inability to respond appropriately to sensitive situations? If this sounds like you might be suffering from being emotionally dead inside. But it's not too late to make a change. One Nothing Podcast is a newly available treatment for being dead inside. Taken just once every 2 weeks, One Nothing could make a world of difference. By combining carefully measured dark humor to the amazing original formula of grisly fatalities, One Nothing Podcast has successfully entertained thousands of people suffering from death inside. And with access across all podcast platforms, treatment has never been more readily available. But don't trust my word. Here's some real-world testimonials from a few of our listeners currently undergoing treatment.
From consistent doses of One Nothing Podcast, my posture has greatly improved due to being kept on the edge of my seat.
The One Nothing Podcast comes on, everybody be like, shut the f*** up. I be quiet, but when the episode's over, I be talking again.
Oh my gosh, buddy. I used to be on so many medications for blood pressure, and then I listened to One Nothing Podcast's episode on Kitty Genovese, moved into an apartment on my own, and haven't needed it since. That one really got my blood pumping.
You know, listening to One Nothing Podcast, I'm not constipated anymore. I'm just full of shit.
So what's stopping you from great entertainment?
One Nothing Podcast is not intended for all audiences. Listeners under 18 years of age should obtain permission from your parent or guardian before downloading. Tell your therapist if you're predisposed to whining, complaining, reading podcasts poorly, being overall combative, or being easily offended, as One Nothing Podcast might not be right for you.
So stop letting great content pass you by. Talk to your therapist today to see if One Nothing Podcast is right for you.
But
not with what you do. No, not at all.
Yeah.
Especially with your wife being able to tell if something's there anyway.
Yeah. But one of the final things I can tell you, granted there's stories for days, but there's other things I want to talk to you about because I know there's stuff that you're going to find very interesting. And like I said, I think what I told you in the last episode, that after all the stories I've told from the ranch, people said, man, that was rival Skinwalker Ranch. And if you're in the paranormal, you know about Skinwalker Ranch. You know all the stories everyone's ever told. But the one thing that adds into the verity of it, Valerity? I'm saying the word right. Anyway, is we saw alien activity there as well on the ranch.
Validity,
that's the word. I'm trying to pull it out of my head. While we were living up there in that the concrete building, we had a friend who we worked with who was trying to get out of his parents' house. And he said, "Hey, you think you got any place to live?" And I said, "It's funny. We have an extra room up the stairs area where we live with my grandparents. Let me talk to him and see if you want to rent that room." And he's like, "Oh, cool." So I talked to our grandfather. He was like, "Okay, but he has to pay more." I was like, "All right." And he allowed him to stay up there. And then one in the evenings, granted, on the upstairs area, there's this little wooden porch area where you can sit with chairs and it has an open view of the entire, not our property, but the neighbors, whoever lived over on the other side in the woods and the open field area and stuff like that. So you had a good view of everything. And he would go out there to smoke. And I would just go out there to talk to him. We just hung out and talk at that spot on nights that we had both off. And one of the times, mind you, my back was to the open area, and I was looking at him. He was sitting in the chair looking towards there. And he goes, "What is that?" And I turn around. And what we see are these three lights moving in perfect synchrony, like they're moving together, which you could chalk up to jets or something like that, or airplanes. But there was no air base within, I would say, 80 miles from our ranch. So what the hell? And they were just moving. And all of a sudden, they slow down, and then they just kind of like one moves and the other move, and they make a triangle. And that triangle moves together for a little bit, and then it almost slows down even more, and then shoots off and disappears.
Wow.
Yeah. Because we were staring at it for maybe a good 30, 40 seconds while that was like moving, and then it slowed and went to a triangle, and shot off.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's wild. I've never, ever in my life seen anything that I could attribute to being otherworldly spaceship, or I've never seen anything that I could say was like, I saw UFOs, I saw alien stuff, you know what I mean? But so were you now you said that you were in a ranch. Do you guys have were you like in a mountainy area, or was it like a flat plain?
They call it the hill country because we have hills. We don't have mountains. And it's like I said, very hilly. The highway roads go like this when you travel, stuff like that. We have a section of a highway we call the Devil's Backbone because it twists like this, and it's very elevated. Like the highest point of the hills is in that area, and it's the highway you take to go from, I guess, a Blanco area to get to San Marcos from there. And what sucks, what I call it Devil's Backbone, not only because it twists, but they have a guardrail on the side of the area that basically has a very sheer cliff face that if you make a wrong turn or speed, you can go directly over this guardrail and then die because your car would roll and explode at the end of the bottom of the hill, which has claimed the life of 2 high schoolers while I was in high school.
Oh,
we had 2 kids die driving down that road, right? Not the only ones. I think 4 or 5 years later, after I graduated, a friend who was still in town told me, "Oh yeah, 3 more kids died on that Devil's Backbone." I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, they were speeding. I think they were drunk and they kind of veered off and stuff like that. I'm like, they either gotta make that highway wider or put a higher guardrail because people keep dying on that road.
Yeah.
But no, the ranch, it's not to say flat plain, but it's kind of like a little elevated where my if there was a flood, my dad's trailer now would be safe because it's so elevated up like a small hill. And then the rest of the land, the rest of the property is kind of flat. And then it goes slight elevation up to where my uncle lives, way in the back area. But not really mountainous. It's called the hill country. The way to get out there is it takes a little bit. Like I said, it's in the middle of nowhere because it's this open property and just road.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what color lights were they? I can't remember I don't recall you saying.
White.
White.
These here. My LED lights.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow, man. I kind of want to experience something like that a little bit, but at the same time, I don't because of things that can happen when you see things like that. But yeah, no, that's super interesting. Was this the only time you saw something like that?
No. And nor was I the only person ever. There was one of these nights that I was driving home from work, and it was about 4 in the morning. And I got off early, and like I said, it's you go Highway 281, and you make a left, and then you turn into a road, go over a bridge, go up a hill, make a left, make a right, and it's just after that point, there's no street lights, there's no street lamps. It's just open road, 2-lane highway or 2-lane road, and nothing but land, open area land. So there's no lights out there whatsoever. So when I'm driving down this road and headed back to the house, I notice a ball of lights in the back of my car, like floating above the car, following me. And because I see in my rearview mirror, I'm like, what the hell is that? For a second, I thought maybe the moon was really bright for some reason. But I look and I just see this ball of light following me. I'm like, what the hell is that? And it just kept getting closer. And it was about hovering length, I would say maybe 30 feet in the air. But it was like low enough for me to see it in the rearview mirror. And it wasn't a car because it didn't have like a car would be direct like behind me. This was like above, angled down because that's where the light was shooting. I remember speeding up trying to get away from it, and it just kept following me. And it got up to the point where I think there's this road area that makes a dip into a creek, and you go up and you make a straight, and you make a right onto the ranch. And at that point, it disappeared. The light was gone.
Wow.
Now, I remember talking to my mom several months ago, and I was explaining some stuff because we're doing an upcoming episode called Lights in the Sky or Light Anomalies episode.
Mm.
And this is a segment from it. She says, I was telling her that story. And then she goes, oh, that sounds like something I experienced. And I go, what? And she tells me when I was 1 or 2, I think, she was working at a Dairy Queen in town with my aunt. And they both lived on the ranch, which we didn't have the trailer then. This is when we lived in the pink building, or the pink building, we called it the pink building, the concrete building, where I stayed later on in my 20s. We were staying up there, me, my mom, my dad, and we stayed up one of the rooms. I think it was actually the room that I stayed in when I was in my 20s. We were staying up in there, and I think my mom was pregnant with my brother, my second youngest brother at the time. So this had to be before we moved to Missouri, because we lived in different states across the United States when I was young, because my dad was a VP of a construction company, so we kept moving. But she says that when she was driving home with my aunt, they noticed a ball of light following the car. Same way I described mine. Mind you, this is 89, or, yeah, 89. And they were following us. The light was following her down the road, and my aunt was freaking out. It's like, what is this thing? Why is it following us? And she said they was kept going, and then she actually got on the dirt road to go into our ranch, and my mom turned the headlights off. Maybe I can lose it in the darkness. Nope. This ball of light was following her home. And she says that she remembers taking the turn to get onto the ranch and then waking up the next day. She has no recollection of dropping my aunt off at the house, getting out of the car, going into the bed, and going to sleep. No memory at all. All she remembers is making the turn, waking up the next
day. Bro. Your brother is an alien. I'm sorry to tell you this.
That's what I told her. It's like, Mom, that is like 90% of abduction stories. When people talk about abducted by aliens, they always talk about not remembering anything and waking up the next day in their own beds.
Yeah,
goes,
that's
I don't know.
wild.
I feel different. Yeah.
Oh man, that's wild. That is some wild stuff, man. Woo! I don't ever want to. So I drove like 2 miles past the road that I have to take to get to work recently, and I was talking about it to Shane from Inquiries of Our Reality, and maybe it wasn't him, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was him. And he's like, "You think you ever experience missing time?" I was like, "Well, I don't know. Sometimes when I'm stressed out, like I feel like I just like miss stuff, like because I drive for work too, and sometimes I'll just like be spaced out, and I'll be like, I'll turn my head at just at this time where I know that I was supposed to turn, but like not a couple like weeks ago, I was 2 miles past where I was supposed to turn, and it, so I was all the way down by this Walmart, and like I just looked up at the sign for Walmart, and I was just like, huh, and like not even thinking of it, and then I double took at the sign. I was like, where the fuck am I? You know, I was like 5, almost 10 minutes away from where I had to turn, and I just was just like, but I mean, I didn't see any lights or anything, so I can't say that it was like an abduction thing. I think it was just like stress and complacency, to be honest with you. But but with your mom seeing the light and then not remembering anything after, like dropping your aunt off and then getting home herself, like that's what it sounds like. But
And I told her about that, and she was like, "I don't." Granted, she's not a real big believer in the paranormal stuff like that, or supernatural things. But she said she didn't feel any different the next day whatsoever. Um, but when you say that my brother could be an alien, there's some evidence to prove you're right.
Oh shit!
Out of all my siblings, mind you, I'm the oldest of 4, so I have two younger brothers and a younger sister. All of us, right? You see my hair color, black hair, right? Same as my father, same as my mother. Well, my mother had light brown, but my father had dark brown, and we all got his hair. Dark brown, black hair, dark brown, black hair. Each of my siblings, except my second youngest brother, the one that he was pregnant with my mom at the time. He was born with blonde hair.
My sister was born with blonde hair too. That is so weird. Because my mom has dark brown and my dad has black. I have black hair. My younger brother has black hair, but my sister was born blonde, and she's like she's more brown now. But when we were kids, she was like blonde and dirty blonde, and I always thought it was weird. But anyways, go on.
No, striking blonde hair to a point where my mom was like, you sure you gave me the right kid?"
Wow,
right?
that blonde,
Yeah.
huh?
Because she's like, this doesn't make any sense, right? And he
Yeah.
goes, no, Gabriel Sanchez, this is him. I was like, and she was like, all right. Granted, we look alike. He looks like my dad when he was younger, so it all worked out. And like
Yeah.
my hair color, right? This dark color, stuff like that. Same as me now. He has his hair darkened over time as he got older. But there's a picture of us when he's like 1 and I'm like 2.5, and we don't look like brothers, right? You got this blonde haired kid next to this black haired kid, right? And it doesn't make any sense. Like, these guys are brothers? Like, no way, right? And he's very tall and lanky, right? Very wiry, very skinny, long fingers, long limbs, stuff like that. And me and my other brother, granted, both my younger brothers are taller than me, which is not fair at all. I'm the shortest and I'm the oldest. But my second youngest brother, he's 6'4". My second youngest, the one who's supposed to be an alien, he's 6 foot. I'm 5'10". But the 6'4" brother, he looks like me. Like, we look like brothers. Like, we have the same face. Granted, he's a lot taller and bigger than I am. And my sister looks like my mother. But yeah, it didn't make any sense why he was born blonde hair. But we figured it is that, or at least scientifically, the only way we could figure it out is that the Mexican race, which I am, is half Spaniard, half indigenous. And we thought maybe there was some Spanish bloodline down that came out and made his hair blonde when he was born, and it darkened over time, which has been other cases of that happening. It's very rare, but it does happen. So we just chalked it up to that and didn't think anything more of it.
That's funny. Your mom may have been abducted, and then your brother comes out with strikingly blonde hair. Like, oh, that is some blonde hair for 2 black-haired parents. Oh my god, that's hilarious. That's a funny story.
And I know some people are probably thinking when listening to this episode, does your brother have any abilities like me? No.
I was just, you know what? I was just gonna ask if any of your siblings did.
No, and none of them do. Well, my sister, she thinks she does. I don't know if she puts more effort into it. Granted, she doesn't really care much about it. She thinks she has premonitions in her dreams, or she has the ability to travel her dreams.
Astral.
Like well, not that. She fully can lucid dream on command.
Huh. No shit.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But no, none of my siblings show any signs of psychic abilities whatsoever. My mother kind of has somewhat of intuition, or at least she knows that when someone's there, like spirit-wise, she can feel their presence. But like I said, she's very religious and never chalked any of the psychic abilities. So she never put much time and effort into gaining or strengthening those abilities whatsoever. My father's line, no, to his knowledge, no anybody being psychic or medium or showing any kind of abilities or anything like that, as far as he knows. So it's a mystery of my bloodline to figure out why am I with my ability so powerful and yet no one in my entire bloodline shows anything else.
That is interesting. That is interesting.
And it's a big mystery. Who knows? I might have a great great grandmother who was like a powerful shaman that was shunned by the family because she was a bruja. So we don't know.
You have to try and look into the family history. Maybe, I don't know. That's if you want to. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. So,
Well, I have tried. As far as Ancestry.com can take me.
Yeah.
But,
did you do the DNA thing or no?
Not yet. It costs too much money for just to find information out like that. Like I wait till they have a deal. But I found out, I think when I was 30, that I have Native American in me, more than people claim to have. Let's say my great grandfather, my mother's grandfather, was 100% Chitao Native.
Nice.
And my great grandmother was Spanish, which that is the formula of all Hispanics and Latinos, is that we're half indigenous to the lands that the Spaniards conquered, and of course half Spanish. So it's the same mix-up, just a different area.
Yeah.
But
well, I always because I'm part Native too, and I've always felt like technically it was like the same bloodline as like Spanish. Like we all look similar. I feel like all like indigenous tribes and stuff, they all look similar to people in Mexico and of Hispanic descent and all that stuff. Like I feel like they all look similar. And my I mean maybe I'm a little retarded, but that I've always felt like they all look similar. But then again, there are like Cubans that are like super white, but they're Cuban, so that's a little weird. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
If you met real Spanish people, majority of them are European, and they have very white, distinctive features. So the Europeans that came over from Spain at the conquering weren't the same color as me. So they are most likely white. Hence why you get a lot of Hispanics in different shades. From like
that makes
white, like almost black, and that has to do with mixing.
That makes sense when you say it like that.
Yeah. Well, I did a little studying on Hispanic histories and stuff like that when I was younger, just because I wanted to know more. But
yeah,
and we'll know more about the Chitao part of me, because it's like 10% if I'm mixing everything right. But I'm still like half indigenous, half Spaniard. The mix is still there, and the indigenous part and the Mexico part would have to be Aztec, just from where my family originates from, is northern Mexico.
Yeah, that's interesting too. How long has it been since as the Aztec
Empire?
Yes, there we go. How long do you know how long that's been since that was there?
You gotta remember, Columbus didn't discover nothing. He came across Puerto Rico in 1492 and spread it from there, and then went to North America from that direction on. It was Cortez who was the general at the time, or captain, whatever his military degree was. He was in charge. Who went further south? He went to Mexico, and then Cortez's brother took over South America, except for Brazil. That was the only country he couldn't conquer. All the surrounding countries he did, but he couldn't take good care of Brazil. The Chanca tribe was very ruthless, almost as ruthless as the Aztec, but the Chancas didn't get wiped out by disease like the Aztecs and the Mayans did. And that's what really won the Spaniards the fight. The Spaniards had swords, cannons, guns. The Aztecs had wooden swords with, granted, obsidian pointed edges that could chop the head off a horse, and their own distinctive battle plans of the area, but they only lost by a smidgen, even being, riddled with disease. So that showed how powerful the Aztecs were when it came to warfare. But that was around the late 1500s, and about the 1600s to the 1700s, the Aztecs started being integrated with the Spaniards and stuff like that, and losing all identity of who they actually were. And the Aztec Empire crumbled and was kind of destroyed because the main city in Mexico City, that the major pinpoint of the Aztec Empire was demolished, and a church was built on top of it.
Fucking churches. Let's just build the church on everything.
Just to wipe it out.
Man.
And then no one ever speaks Aztec. You find some people who still speak Aztec in Mexico. You have to go to some rural places to find people who still speak it. But Spanish is the number one language in the entire Mexico to South America, except for Brazil, because they were conquered by the Portuguese.
Yeah.
Little history for people listening.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it. And by walking through it, my friends, head on over to www.deeperdown.store. There you will find some sick-ass threads, AI-inspired art on t-shirts, hoodies, flip-flops and cups, and motherfucking tote bags. I promise you, my friends, if you follow the rabbit, you will not be disappointed. You can also find _ down the rabbit hole _ on Instagram. He has thousands of followers, and he shows you deep down the rabbit hole on conspiracies, hauntings, and cryptids. I highly recommend you subscribe for $2.99 a month. Also, if you check out his store, upon checkout, enter code KevinsWeird18. There, my friends, you will get 18% off of your purchase. So please, I highly recommend and suggest to you to go check out his store. David is a good friend, and he deserves the utmost respect, and I wish him nothing but success. But this is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I like it, man. I like it. I love history. History is my favorite thing. My daughter was just talking about it. I just picked them up because they don't have school tomorrow. Tomorrow's Veterans Day. So I picked them up tonight, and she was talking about her history class, and she's learning about things that are racist. And I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, my teacher was talking to us about mascots and some other picture thing that, and they were talking about why it's racist. And I was like, that doesn't sound like history. You're not learning history. You're learning about things being racist. You're learning how to react to things. You know what I mean? Like she's just teaching you how, like, what you're supposed to do. I was like, look, we can't change the world. People are always going to think certain things about certain groups of people, and that's just the way it is. It's just a matter of them acting on it. Like if they can still be decent people, then that's how a way forward at least. But people are always going to be judgmental no matter what. The best thing that we can do is show love to everybody. And that's what I told her. I was like, but it doesn't sound like you're learning any history, so should I say something or not? I'm probably not gonna say anything because I don't want my daughter singled out for me saying something anyway.
Well,
But I
that's
don't
with
know. I love history.
well, that's the thing. With the more history you learn, and from different aspects, the more you realize that the stories that we were told when we were young, everything is almost bullshit. The history
Yeah.
of the country, how it was created, so-called heroes that we were told to worship, are all evil pieces of crap. Especially Columbus. He was probably one of the worst in history. And
Yeah.
the Boricas of Puerto Rico, the tribe natives are there. The natives that were on Puerto Rico were so peaceful that their weapons were made of wood, so they didn't kill their enemies. That's why they were easily conquered by Columbus, who saw these people and good. Oh, good. This is going to be easy. We can enslave these people overnight.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
Cortez.
Have you read pieces of his journal that were out there? Because I haven't, but I've heard people that have, and that's essentially what you just said was what he wrote down in his journal.
There's a book I read called 1491, The Americas Before Columbus, and you'd learn by reading it that there were so many tribes, there were so many natives, indigenous people across the entire North America and South America regions that almost built up into the hundreds of millions of people, almost in the billions of civilizations all living together. And now majority of Native American people are less than 0.5% of the population, and Hispanics have been knocked down to less than 500 million. When we had over that, and another thing too, the Aztec. Before I go for that, I'm going on a tangent talking about this. It pisses me off the more you learn about it. But
Yeah,
one thing I
true.
can say
Same.
about the Aztec Empire is that people think Mexico is like, oh, you guys are a bunch of like savages and stuff like. No, the Aztec Empire was just as civilized and technologically advanced as the Greeks were. They had their own aqueducts, they had their own shops, they had their own laws, they had their own government, they had everything the Greeks did. But yet the Greeks get all the glory for being so civilized and technologically advanced with math and science. Aztecs had it too. They had everything, except they were conquered by the Spaniards as a disease more than anything.
Yeah,
But
and they're the gods that their religion is looked as like a evil religion, too. I've heard, at least that's in since I started this podcast, I've come across people saying, well, actually no, I saw it in a movie where they claim that the Aztec were worshiping like demonic entities. So not that that's true. I'm not saying that's true. That's not at all what I'm saying.
there's a lot of when people say there's a lot of equivalence between gods and the story of creation and how you have this story and this story always seem to be almost repeating themselves in regions of the world. Like the
Oh
same
yeah.
story is told, regardless of the location. Right? You can have almost the same particular god, like the Aztecs. They had a sun god. The Egyptians had a sun god, and they were on other sides of the world.
Mm-hmm.
They had the same idea,
Exactly. And they had
but they had no way of talking to each other.
yeah, right. And they had fucking
Pyramids.
pyramid. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here
That's what's
making
the
the symbol
interesting.
for it. I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah. But that
But
jumps into conspiracy theory that aliens have been visiting humanity for a long time, and the same story was told in two different parts of the world.
Absolutely.
Which I'm not 100% behind it, but I'm 100% behind the idea of something powerful enough to be called an alien or God to come down to humanity and kind of guide the way around.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I know what happened and how they built the pyramids, like for sure. So what happened was that gravity wasn't invented yet because Sir Isaac Newton wasn't alive. So like these big ass stones could just float on these boats, and they could just pick them up and stack them, and they made the pyramids. So that's a joke. That's a joke. Don't take me serious.
I was like, I'm waiting for the punchline.
Shit, son. So, before we get too lost on history and stuff, so you developed something new with your ability.
Like I said in the last episode, every time I met with a challenge, I evolve to match it next time it happens. But what's new is extremely interesting. Now, remember last I talked about how my tendrils that leave my hand to wrap around an entity to pull it closer to me electrify. And not only they electrify, they can spin, creating somewhat of a vortex to kind of pull multiple entities at one time. And I can do this over a location, an entire area. I encountered, well, before I talk about that, what I like to do for fun sometimes is swipe through TikTok and find lives. And if someone's investigating on a live, right, I'll reach into the location, pull whatever's dark there, and then keep moving on. It's like practice for me. That's how I practice or flex or work out my muscles.
Yeah.
And sometimes psychics do lives, and I'll reach into their location, excuse me, to see if they're legit or not. Because there's two reasons why something evil would be in a psychic's home, or so-called psychic. And this is a shot at them and all the charlatans out there. If I reach into your location, I pull something dark, there's two reasons why. One, you're using that dark entity to power yourself up to use your psychic abilities, which has been stories of that happening throughout history. Or you're not psychic at all, because any psychic with a moderate amount of ability would notice something that dark in their home, and you're a true charlatan. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which I call them out on their TikTok, and some of them don't even see it, so it doesn't matter. But I take away their source, so they have no idea, or at least take away danger to them. But one of the times, this guy was doing a TikTok live, and he was showing off a statue of Zeus with a statue of Artemis next to it. And I was like, "Ooh, this is interesting. I've never seen anyone talk about Greek stuff here." So I tuned in and listened. And he talked about how Zeus was contacting him and talking to him and stuff like that. And I was thinking, that can't be 100% right. He's just not around anymore. So let me reach in to his live, and I pull something dark, and that almost looked like it was made of gold electricity. Strange. Pull it out from his location, put it in the ring. I talked to it. What it looked like was a demon in Greek attire with yellow lightning wrapped around it. Because when I grabbed it and tried to electrify it to get information out of it, like torturing it, it was getting stronger. I was like, holy crap, I can't do that. So basically I thought to myself, can I pull the electricity off of it? And I did. I pulled it and absorbed it into myself, the electricity that was surrounding him. And it attached to my tendrils, giving a slight yellow yarn, very thin string kind of thing around my red and blue electricity tendrils in each hand. I was like, what the hell is this? Like a powerful electricity ability. And what was left over was just a shadow. The lights went out again.
Didn't this happen last time?
Yeah, exactly the same thing. Your lights just go out. Around the same marker time, too. Yeah, time lights.
Jeez, I charged it like forever the other night, but sorry about that.
That's right. Was left was just a shadow. So I was like, okay, I took its elemental ability away. And that's what made me think, is this an elemental ability of an entity that I can take? I don't know. I had to think more on it. So one of the other lives, some guy was, some psychic chick was just talking about some stuff. So I reached into her live, and I pull something that's very fast and red. Like zipping by, like an insect almost. Yeah, lo and behold, in the ring, I checked it. It was like a red bug with red electricity around it that was just zipping around, moving fast. I grab it, and I pull the red electricity off it and absorb it into my tendrils. And now my tendrils can spin super fast, like lightning speed fast and create a powerful vortex. The electricity fires out of my hands at faster speeds. I can pull things a lot quicker. Like everything like went from like 60 to 100. Like speed abilities. Vroom, right? Next thing I take. Me and my wife were doing an episode on the Alaskan Triangle, which if you haven't found out about yet, I was just looking into that because that's a very interesting topic after we learned about it. And she remote viewed into the location just to see what's around. Like I said, to her, one of her main abilities is remote viewing. She goes to the location and she comes back with something that, remember, like I talked about the body bag thing. Oh, one fun fact is that I built in her mind forest, because I can build things in people's mind forests. I built in her mind forest a giant 2-story, about 50 yards wide, 50 yards, about 10 feet wide, about 30 feet long, giant metal holding cell, right? With bars about big as my body around on the top. Like, you have to be at least, 9 or 10 feet tall to look inside, just how tall it is. And there's no door. The only way to open it is with my tendrils that embed themselves into the front and then spin like a safe door, and then it opens up and I can get whatever's inside. I built that so anything she remote views, it brings back with her, she can just throw in there, and I'll come get it later without running around freeing her mind forest. One of the things she took back from the Alaskan Triangle was it looked like a Native American person, all white with black eyes, wearing a white hooded long cloak thing, but there was like bison horns on the top of the hood. And it was very misty and almost like it was made of air, right? Very wind wispy and like air, like how a real ghost looks like. Or at least how they've been depicted anyway. And I pulled it from her mind forest, I put it in the ring, and I pulled the air ability off of it. And what's left over was just a black shadow. And when I noticed now, I can spin a tornado of red lightning inside my hand, of wind. And I was like, oh, cool. Now I can spin an actual tornado vortex, sucking everything in a location up into my hand.
Nice.
Next thing I added was this elemental entity that looked like it was made of fire. Not fire per se, like how the sun looks. How the sun's liquid fire looks like. How a sun flare looks, like that kind of fire design, but it's not quite fire. It looked like it was made of that. I pulled that off. Now my tendrils not only electrify, spin, can create a tornado, but ignite like flame as well. The next thing I take, which I'll talk about a little bit later, because we actually were allowed, because people were friends of the show, who are Marines, because you got the Marine base right here, Camp Lejeune, right? Literally less than a throwing distance from my house. And they invited us to go on the base and investigate. And so we did. And the base itself is like an entire city untapped. Like, no one has investigated it. No shaman, no witch, no paranormal investigators have gone to the location to encounter anything. It's like an entire city untouched by anybody.
Wow.
And we were the first ones to go there. So, but
That's
they took
dope.
us to this. Yeah, it took us to this lake that all the teenager kids go to just to hang out and basically be away from their parents. And supposedly Marine drowned in that lake. So we were standing up front of it, and I'm like, and I reach my tendrils into the water, and they start going down deeper and deeper and deeper. I asked them, how deep is this lake? Oh, it's like they said there's a point in the center of it where it goes down very deep that no one's ever seen the bottom of. So I reach my tendrils down. What I find is a shadow figure looked like it was wearing a suit, like almost like an astronaut suit of water. But the water looked like how water looked like in zero gravity. Like it was undulating around him. And when I grabbed him, because when I could see what I saw was a guy going, no, I can't do it, no. Like distraught and distressed. And I grab it, I pull it out and put it in the ring, and I pull the water suit ability off of him, just leaving a shadow figure behind, which now I assume, or at least I speculate, that might have been the entity that pulled the Marine down and drowned him. Because Marines don't drown. Not that easily, anyway. So it made me think that he might have got pulled down by this entity. That one might have killed him. And I pulled a water ability off, and now Not only can I ignite, electrify, spin like wind, I can create ice with the wind and water at the same time. Like freeze entities as much as I can.
Wow. So
I
you
have
got
almost
like all the elements pretty
elements,
much.
except for Earth, which I can't really think of needing it. But I didn't think I need water, and now I have it. So, yeah, it seems I can take the elemental ability off an entity if they have it, which I don't encounter a lot of that. I don't. Most dark entities I encounter, most demons I encounter, are just black masses, shadows,
Yeah.
darks, like just like that. They don't have any distinctive features other than that. Or like how about demons? What we notice is that they have almost designs in their skin, like tattoos. And the higher the rank of the demon, the more designs they have in their skin. Kind of like a gang. The more people you kill, the higher you are in the gang, the more tattoos you have. Kind of the same thing associates.
Yeah.
But no,
That's interesting.
one of the new abilities. But one of the cool things that I did, that I learned, or figured out anyway.
Yeah.
We tried this out at the park that's that we investigated a couple times. I told you about it. We saw like the witch's brooms there, and I saw the light anomaly in the sky. We went there, and I was going to try out this new experiment of mine. So what I did is, using my tendrils, I almost speared into the ground 3 points of energy, like a triangle. One to my corner left, one to my corner right, and one directly in front of me. And I used both hands, connecting between the 3 points, all my tendrils, to generate a vortex in the center of it to pull everything in the entire area with more efficiency. That was the whole point of it. And I tried this, and when I tried it out, granted, it was a little stormy that day because it rained earlier in the morning, but towards the evening it was fine. And the wind was kind of picking up every now and then, but not continuous. We got a few gusts of wind every now and then. But when I did this, I concentrated and I pulled everything up at once. The wind kicked up to almost a hurricane level amount of wind. And it felt like the wind was blowing from underneath my arms as I was doing this. And then when I thought I had everything accumulated in one spot in the center, I reached with my right hand and grabbed whatever dark energy was there. There wasn't a lot left over because we already been to this place a couple times before and kind of wiped everything out, but there's still enough for me to grab, and I did. What's interesting is that I didn't know this when it was happening to me in the moment, but I was wearing a body cam because we like record that stuff, and what you hear on the body cam is you hear the wind kick up, blowing heavily, hurricane level winds for the time that I'm doing this, and then it just shuts off. The second I grab with the right hand, the wind just goes. So hurricane level winds, and then I grab, shuts off. And we have this footage you can go see on Hidden in the Shadows Paranormal Instagram page. And you can hear.
That's a plug.
You can hear the wind kick up and then shut off the second I grab.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I was like, I didn't think I was affecting the weather that way when I was doing it, but when we watched the footage back, I was.
That's interesting. Definitely have to go check that out.
I call it the triangle pull now, or the 3 spirit pull.
That's awesome, man. That's pretty cool. Man, I sent you somebody that needed your help, and she ended up messaging me right after saying how amazing you were and that she actually could see what you were doing.
Yes.
And you commented on that nobody else has ever been able to actually visualize what you were doing. So she was beside herself that you were able to help, but she was also worried that you might have taken like her good spirits. She's like, because when she was telling me all these stories, and her name's Angel. She's been on. She was on a few episodes ago, actually, probably maybe past 10 by now. But for everybody listening, it was Angel. She's been experiencing more stuff since she's been on. And she was talking to me about it, and I was just like, listen, like she sounded scared to me, and I was like, listen, there's this guy, he's episode 50. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but his name's Isaac. He has a he has a podcast, and I gave her your Instagram handle, and I was like, just tell him what's happening, tell him I sent you, and he'll help you. I promise you he'll help you. And then it was right after you helped her, she was like, oh my god, that was so amazing. But she's like, I don't want him to take, before she reached out to you, she's like, I don't want him to take any of my good experiences. And I was like, well, if anything is there genuinely for good, he's not gonna, he's only gonna be going after the darkness. So first of all, I want to thank you for doing that for her.
No, there's no problem. It's what I do. And it's what I've been doing, is try to give people what I can never have, and that's peace. Peace of mind, peace from dark entities, peace from consistent torment. Not saying I'm being tormented, but I'm always a target, especially after doing what I've been doing for the last 3 years now. But no, she was an interesting case. It was strange as too, because, like I said, she'll probably, because she said she was coming back on your show, correct?
Yeah, January or February, I believe, is where we were thinking, because I'm booked up into January, so
That's good. But she'll probably tell you from her own perspective. But what was interesting is that when I was taking stuff from her home, which was 3, and I think I found a portal I closed as well, in the attic. That's right, upstairs. Was it the attic or the outside? I can't remember exactly where.
She said she mentioned something about the attic when she was on too. So that's probably, you're probably right.
There's another guy that I helped who looked like the singer from Red Hot Chili Peppers, who I helped out recently for the same situation. But she was the first person to ever see something get taken when I was pulling it, which is extremely interesting, because I've helped out psychics and I've helped out mediums who are very clairvoyant, but never saw anything. But she saw the shadow sitting on her couch, and then almost like it was getting like pulled directly at her into her phone when I was taking it. And she was like, holy crap. I was like, what happened? Right? I didn't know what I did. She goes, I just saw you take it. I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, I saw it go towards me into the phone. I'm like, oh, well, you're the first person ever to see that. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, because after that, she was like, she believed 100% what I was doing. I don't know if she was on the fence before while I was taking stuff away, but she saw that. I'm like, oh, yeah, holy crap. No, after I think I took everything, I cleared out her mind force, which her main spirit guide, I don't know if she cares enough if I tell anybody, but was a wizard, like a wizard from the medieval times, right?
Nice. Yeah.
Had a staff, had like a hood thing, like almost like like a wizard. That's what it looked like to me. And I remember I had my wife, one of her not newer ability because she's been doing it for a while, but she's got more proficient with it now. She puts down a protective spell, a permanent one that I'm pretty sure no one can break. No witch on earth, pretty sure, can break it. That's how powerful this protective symbol spell on the ether she puts down on someone's home. Because when she puts it down, that's it. There's nothing ever able to come back there again. So all dark entities gone from her location forever.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. That is amazing. So I don't think I have any questions, because you just like, you're so easy to basically interview, because you kind of like just give you the answers that would be asked as well as while you're speaking. So which makes it fun to just sit here and listen. But a lot of your experiences, especially when you were younger, like I do 100% believe that was a Bigfoot. The freaking white person, the white person is probably the white person and the little shadow girl. Those probably scare me the most. The Bigfoot thing doesn't really, but like, oh man, I would have been so scared, especially of the little shadow girl, just because I know how I felt seeing my recent shadow person.
Well, friends, I need you to take a second. Head on over to www.fineartmedium.com. Emily is a medium, a working medium at that. She does readings, and she's artsy. She does graphic design. So, if you're in the market for a logo, because maybe you're starting a business, maybe you're even starting a podcast, and your logo needs met, Emily is who you want to reach out to. I promise you won't be disappointed in her artwork. I also know that if you need a reading, past life regression, this medium, not only is she compassionate, she's extremely intelligent. She will get your needs met. You can go onto her website, you can see all of her reviews. I promise you, my friends, you won't be disappointed in this. So give her your time if you're in the need for it. She made a couple of my t-shirt designs, and we're working on a comic book. So, if you have graphic design needs, check her out. As always, my friends, stay weird.
But basically, I guess we'll wrap it up here, because I don't know when. I know it said 2 hours, but I don't know if it'll shut me up. I don't know. But if you have anything else to say, we'll just I'll give you the opportunity now before we wrap it up.
No, I was looking at my notes because I was trying to think of things that I haven't talked to you about from the last episode, and one of them that I mentioned was seeing a gnome.
Oh yeah, that's right. You mentioned that. God damn it. I freaking had that in my head, when I told you when I scheduled this freaking part 2, and I completely forgot about it. Oh, yeah, cuz you said it right at the end before we said goodbye, and I was like, I need to hear that. So let's go, man. Let's hear this story. I'm so intrigued by anything like that is out of the normal talk when it comes to paranormal and stuff, and gnomes and fairy lore and all that stuff is a little bit less discussed. So please please tell me.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, I've encountered demons on a daily basis. I've taken down some of the most dangerous ones, encountered dark spirits, seen doppelgangers, talked to Cheshire-faced demons, talked to all different forms of dark entities. Took down a Native American spirit called Amarok. It's dark entities and of the supernatural is a common occurrence for me. Aliens, not so much. Cryptids, probably just as rare. Because granted, we do investigate the woods a lot and have never heard anything out there that would be classified as a cryptid. But the first time I saw anything of the Fae folk, I never cared too much to look into, investigate it, to even research it. We did do episode on the Fae and stuff like that, which are brought up the whole gnomes situation. But what the gnome thing happened here, where I live right now, and it literally outside my window in this direction.
Wow.
I go to the gym at night because I want to avoid less people as possible, and I want to be able to use the machines that are having to wait. So I would go like at 11 o'clock at night to the gym at nighttime, stuff like that. And we have a porch light out here, and that illuminates majority of the front yard. And then we got the street because I live inside the city. And I remember going out one night, towards the car, and I see something that looks like a bird flying underneath the car, and then stay under there. And I was going, crap, I need to get that bird out there. I'll run it over. So I flashed the light underneath the car to make it shoo, and there's nothing under there. Nothing left from either side. It just, it looked like a bird, but it was really low to the ground. Go underneath the car and disappear. All right, whatever. Go to the gym. Come back an hour later, probably midnight or so. And I get out of the car, and what I see is just the shadow of it peeking around one of the bushes that are in front of my house, in front of the window, and just doing like this number, right? See the little hat, right? Standing maybe 6 inches tall, 6 or 7 inches tall, peek around, and I could see like a little coat, the fucking pointy hat, but it was all shadow. But I could see like the designs of it, and just peek around the corner. And I'm like, what the fuck? I thought in my head that it was like maybe my wife's grandmother who we live with, who lives with us, had something out there. Like she put some kind of like little gnome figurine or something.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you thought it was her peeking around the. I was gonna say, is she that small?
No, I thought maybe she put like a gnome figure out there or something that was like maybe leaning over or caught in the wind. I don't know. So I run over there with my phone light, and I think I got maybe like 3 or 4 feet away, and flashed the flashlight, and there was nothing there. Nothing around the bush, nothing in the area. I didn't hear anything run. There's nothing there. I was like, oh, what the shit? What's going on? And I remember walking inside and tell my wife, I saw a fucking gnome outside. She goes, what? I'm like, a gnome. It's like, what are you talking about? A gnome? Like from the little figurine? Like, yeah. She's like from the Fae folk and fairies? Like, yeah. She goes, where? And I went out there and I showed her, and she's like looking around, like, I don't know. It's like, that's weird, right? Thing is, she saw one too.
Before or after?
After.
Oh shit, son.
This is about a year after that. She was outside with my son, and it was dusk-ish. It was still light out enough for her to see. And what she saw was something that looked like a gnome. The same little hat, same clothes, but the clothes were black. And she remembers it was weird because she could see the skin of it. Its skin and hair. And it looked like it was inside the bush near the front of the yard, or the tree. Next to this is a bush and there's a tree. And she said it looked like it was inside the bush, standing in there behind it, watching her. And she freaked out because she stared at it like harder. And when she looked at it harder, she like walked around the tree to see if like it was an optical illusion or something. But when she walked close to the tree and looked around, there was nothing there. What she was looking at was gone.
Damn, son. That's crazy.
Yeah, it freaks me out because one of the days I feel like if I come home late at night and I'm standing at the front door trying to unlock the door and I hear human. What? I accidentally
Not
kick
one
it.
of us. So how long ago was that incident where your wife saw it?
She saw it about a year ago. When I saw it was about 2 years ago. This is like I don't know, early 2021. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I saw
it's same house you're in right now.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I hope they're not evil.
I think so. Yeah,
I don't know that there's talk about Fae folk and stuff like that being actually evil, and they're there for the children. So obviously when you saw yours, you didn't have your kid with you. You were going to the gym, but she did. So I'm almost wondering if they were like watching you leave so that they could watch your child. Was your child born the time that you saw it?
Yeah, he's 7 now, so he's been like 5 at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I always
what are you saying?
I always find this I find the Fae folk and gnomes and all that stuff. I think it all falls under that category of Fae folk, but I think those stories are the most interesting. Mainly because I think I went to another realm when I was a kid for like a minute or two. I think I've told the story a few times on this podcast, but I basically saw a village of mushroom people, and that's like the whole like same like category. There's fairies, gnomes, mushroom people, but I haven't really heard anybody else have an encounter with mushroom people, and I've been looking. So, but I was just on the confessionals, and he was saying that he found some like mushroom. The only place that he found mushroom people were in Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, out of all places, I was like, if I would have played that game, I would probably have known this. But yeah, I just there's books on Fey folk, and oh man, and it always has to do with children though. So, and when I experienced what I experienced, I was a child. And I wore glasses back then. So I don't know how much of the show that you listened to, because I know that last time you were on, you had mentioned that you listened to a couple episodes, but I had glasses, and then once I had this experience, they told me that I didn't need my glasses, and then my sister stepped on my glasses, broke my glasses, and then I had to go get reevaluated, and I never needed glasses ever since. My doctor was like, maybe keep them for reading and watching TV, but he goes, your eyes are fine, which is kind of weird. And I was just like, yeah, that is kind of
I
weird.
hope that those gnome people come talking to me and ask me to do something for, like, can you take the evil demon from our land or something? Like some kind of big deal. I'm like, yeah, can you fix my back and my eyes?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't. Maybe they're watching you because of what you can do. They're like, this guy's gonna come in handy one day. I tell you what.
That'd be interesting if I talk to one. Holy crap!
Oh
I'll be
my
like,
god, yeah, it would be.
I'll break down because I'm like, well, I talk to demons, so I mean, this would just be so far fetched.
Oh man, that's hilarious. That's an interest. The both of those encounters too. Those are interesting, man. You live an interesting life. You have your growing up. You've got some interesting stories, and now you got this dark entity catching and storing them into a ring. And dude, you're doing some God's work, if there is one, which I hope so. I believe there is one. Not in the religious like Christian sense, but I do believe that there is a greater force. And I believe all of us have some kind of capability. Of Obviously yours is much greater than most people, but I feel like we all have something within us that is helpful, kind of in that like same realm, and we just got to tap into it. And some people just can't for whatever reason. But I think love and you know treating each other well, treating nature well is a good step forward for us to come together and raise the vibration of the consciousness, the greater consciousness, and build a community of all of us as one and help us ascend. Maybe all of us won't ascend by the time my life expires, but hopefully one day that the universe can live cohesively.
And I'm doing my best to try to get us there any faster. Like I remember mentioned last time, I had to listen back to the episode to remember exactly what I told you. And then last time I told you, this was August that we recorded that episode. That was released as well. I had 52 demons in.
Oh yeah.
This ring, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
the ring I have, the King Solomon replica ring. 52. I am now at 65.
And Solomon was what?
70.
70. Getting closer, my friend.
Yes. And
Are
I
you going to
have
be able to fit them all in there? Are you going to be able to fit 70 in there, or?
it's well, not just Solomon just had 70 demons. I have 65 demons, 4 witches, 7 elementals, 5 witches, 4 skinwalkers, 7 elementals, 1 primordial evil, 1 jinn, 1 possible alien, I think. At least it portrayed itself to me as an alien. And that's an interesting story for another day. Yeah.
Part 3.
Yeah. And I lost count of how many human dark spirits I have taken. Because if you're an asshole in life, you will be an asshole in death.
Absolutely.
And you be just a negative spirit and negative person. Negative person equals negative spirit and death. And I've taken, like I said, I lost count of how many of those people I've taken. But what's interesting is too is I have now. Say it.
I was just gonna. I was trying not to cut you off, but I was gonna say you might take my mother one day.
Shit. There's some people I met. I'm like, if you run into me after you're dead, you're gonna be in that ring with everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of that 65 demons, I have 10 high-ranking demons, or not say high-ranking, just some names you know of. Names worth writing down. Names worth being written down. I have. Just some of the things I've taken so far. Some have put more of a fight than anything else I have. But I think I'm getting close to beating Solomon's record. I'm only 5 away, and we still got 2 months, and who knows what's going to happen. Like I said, in a matter of that time we last talked until now, which is November, I've taken 10, and you've seen how my ability has grown from then to now. In a matter of months, I can go from, I'm thinking this is the best I can get, and going, no, there's more, and then now I'm thinking, well, this obviously is the best I can get. Who knows where I would be, say, next year? It's even more stronger with newer additions to what I'm already doing.
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing more about it a year from now, hearing about your ability and how many entities you have in your ring by this time next year. That'd be super interesting to know. I find everything that you do interesting, so especially since when Mike mentioned you and everything, like, man, I'm glad that you exist in the same timeline as me. That's all I gotta say.
Yes, and I've existed in many before. Well, not with this ability, but who knows? I might have at some point in time. But the last lies have been told to me, I've always been a fighter with physical weapons. This is something entirely different.
Yeah, refer to episode 50 to figure out what those past lives were. All right, Isaac. Why don't you tell them one more time where they can find you and where they can find your podcast?
You can find us a Hidden Shadows podcast on anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We usually put episodes out every week. Sometimes the bonus episodes out the same week as well. We're trying to have more bonus episodes so I have more things to listen to. Or you can find us all social medias at Hidden the Shadows Podcast on Instagram, Hidden the Shaw 6 on X, Hidden in the Shadows Podcast 2 on TikTok, or links to all our social media and always list to us at hiddentheshadowspodcast.com. We also have our new paranormal page, Hidden the Shadows Paranormal, where you can find that video that I talked about earlier, along with some other photos from our past investigations, and ask us questions through there. Or if you need help with anything you're dealing with dark-wise, or maybe you just want your mind force cleared out to speak to your main spirit guide, refer to episode 50, and speak to your main spirit guide, you can easily message us through the Hidden Shadows Paranormal or podcast Instagrams and ask. That's simple as that. All you have to do is ask. And all the work I do for people clearing out their homes, making sure they're safe, is all free. I never charge anyone anything for anything I do.
Amazing. I like it. I like it a lot. Well, people, that is the show for today. I hope you guys have a good night and whatever time you listen to this. But if you like today's episode, please like, follow, share, subscribe. Definitely go check Isaac and his wife's podcast out. I would greatly appreciate it. But leave a review, leave a 5-star. I would appreciate 5 stars, but you give me what you think I'm worth. And if you're interested in being featured on the show, it's wheretheweirdones@gmail.com. Where the weird one, where_the_weird_ones are on Instagram, where the weird ones are on Facebook. Find Weirdos Only on Discord, which I'm still trying to figure out how to work. And yeah, I hope you guys have a blessed motherfucking day. But remember, question everything and stay weird.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky, when the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day. Make a wish.